Hello Figgy Fiends and Collectors, this is me, Daniel East 1000, back again with another Indiana Jones Adventure Series Figgy review. Today we're going to be having a look at Wave 3 as a whole, and then taking a look at that Build an Artefact accessory. Naturally running down my favourite to least favourite Figgy in the wave. I think it's harsh to say least favourite just because they are all really good in their own rights. But naturally there are always going to be a bit of favouritism and more impressive features than the rest. So in joint top position, I have to give it to Indiana Jones and Henry Jones Sr. These are both really, really good figures, and namely, I'm going to pick Henry Jones Sr. just because he's a fan favourite character and a favourite of mine, really. And naturally, because this is an Indiana Jones action figure line, you have to pick Indy. And this one is probably one of the best indies that we've got. And I know I say that in every one of these, but it really is. They really did some innovation with this figgy, namely in how they did the head sculpt so that you could pose the hat. It really works well in the figure's favourite. A really smart move on Hasbro's part, and I did review these two figures together, so link will be up there for you to check that out if you do so wish. Indy comes with the table leg of the Grail Table. It is worth noting that this does come in 3 parts, but when I put them together, I can't get them apart again. And Henry Jones comes with some false grails and some little features that you can put on the Grail Table. Second up, I'm going to have to give it to Grail Knight. This figure is such a brilliant inclusion. I'm so glad that Hasbro did this figgy. He looks absolutely fantastic and just adds something really different to your collection as a whole. Just because as he is a knight, he does look out of place. But that's kind of the point. I love the fact that he comes with the Holy Grail as well. If you want to check out my review of the Grail Knight, then link will be up there. Of course, the Grail Knight comes with the Build an Artefact accessory in the form of some more false grails and some features that you can add to the Grail Table. Next up, I'm just going to have to give it to Elsa Schneider, just because these 4 figures are all from Last Crusade, and she just adds to that Grail Table Build an Artefact accessory really, really well. Goes with these 4 figures excellently and was a nice choice on Hasbro's part. I would love to have seen some more female characters in the Indiana Jones Adventure Series line, so I'm really pleased that we've got Elsa Schneider. If you want to check out my review of Elsa Schneider, then link will be up there. In terms of a Build an Artefact accessory, she comes with the second table leg of the Grail Table. It is worth noting that this does come in 3 parts, but when I put them together, I can't get them apart again. And then finally, getting into the more weaker figures now, of which I do still feel like is quite an unfair statement to say, given that I haven't really been able to put these 2 figures down. But Renaldo is probably my next choice. Accessories wise, a little bit light on the feet, but I couldn't really tell you what they could include with him. He's a very, very bit part, but the figure itself just really won me over with how odd it is of a choice, and also in terms of just how it really looks. Very bold move on Hasbro's part. I do feel like it could have been switched out for a better choice that fit in more with the theme of the wave that builds up the Grail Table. Nonetheless though, if you want to check out my review of Renaldo, link will be up there for you to check that out. Nonetheless, he does come with a Build an Artefact accessory, and that comes in the form of the table of the Grail Table. Next up, we have Jürgen Voller. Kind of surprised myself with this one because I was very split between these two in terms of ranking, but I'm going to have to say Jürgen Voller just because it's a very sort of basic body. Accessory wise, it's a little flat on the feet, and it really could have done with having an additional accessory in the form of the Dial of Destiny. But nonetheless, if you want to check out my full thoughts on Dr. Jürgen Voller, then link will be up there for you to check that out. Jürgen Voller does come with a Build an Artefact accessory, the chunky ornament thing which sits on the back of the Grail Table. So that's my very brief overview of this wave. All these figures are really, really good. They compile predominantly of characters from The Last Crusade, of which makes sense given the Grail Table Build an Artefact feature that these figures build up. But then you also have 2 figures from the newest film, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I'm really pleased that we got 2 figures from Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny, particularly in the form of a villain. Really nice to see, because I think that's what this entire line's really been lacking, really, is the inclusion of villains. But both of these, once again, do feel like they could have been exclusives and do sort of bulk out the wave a bit. I get, because they are characters that wouldn't really come with many accessories, it makes sense for them to be included because the parts they do come with are quite big and chunky and certainly make up the value for money. It just does feel like it should have had more of a focus on The Last Crusade. Both these figures could have easily been replaced with Colonel Vogel, maybe even Sala as to how he appears in Last Crusade. And as I have mentioned before as well in my reviews, we're really severely lacking grunts for Indy to face off against. So a German soldier would have been really cool to have seen as well. Or even Walter Donovan really, but granted the Walter Donovan exclusive figgy does come with quite a few accessories which would make it problematic to fit everything in one box, maybe. These two feel like they could have been more of an exclusive, but if they did make them exclusives, then they would have been even more of a peg warmer than they are being featured in this wave. Because naturally most people are going to want to make that Grail table, and including these two in this wave really does force people to get them just to get those parts, unless they're willing to hunt on the secondary market for them. But alas, this is what we've been given. I think the Last Crusade figures are definitely the strongest in this wave, and I've really enjoyed posing these figures up in front of the Grail table, build an artifact accessory. They all just look absolutely fantastic together. So it's a really, really good wave. Just some slightly questionable but also understandable decisions in terms of these two. But once you've bought all these figures and assembled the parts that they come with, you get this. The Grail table from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So here we have the Grail table in all its fortune and glory. This thing looks absolutely incredible. I'm so pleased that Hasbro spared no expense with this thing. I think it's fairly safe to say that we're not going to see any future waves for Indiana Jones Adventure Series, of which is extremely bittersweet, particularly when we've got this. And this really does send the line off with a pretty big bang. I'm really, really impressed with just the sculpting, the detailing, and the little accessories that build up this thing. It looks absolutely wonderful. It really makes sense why they had to do a slightly bigger wave compared to the other waves that we have received, just so that we could get this. I think that really does benefit this to great effect. And again, Hasbro really didn't cheap out on this, in my opinion. Granted, as you did just see there, as I say that, there is, on the back of the actual Grail table thing, nothing really covering that ugly back piece. But you're not going to have that on show. You're going to have that facing away and let everyone really enjoy the majesty of this incredible build and artifact accessory, having it facing forward like that. So I can forgive Hasbro on that part for that really ugly back bit there, but yeah, nonetheless, really lovely paint application, dry brushing going on. Those table legs there, of course they've got different designs on them, all running the way round. You've got sort of like this cloth running on the front of the Grail table, and some ceremonial plates that just plug in there, and all the false grails sat waiting for their unassuming victims.
Which one is it?
You must choose. But choose wisely. For as the true Grail will bring you life, the false Grail will take it from you.
You've got some really cool flame effects, looking very ritualistic. This kingly looking dude there. One would assume this is King Arthur, as per what's said in the film.
The chalice used by Christ during the Last Supper. The cup that caught his blood at the crucifixion and was entrusted to Joseph of Arimathea.
The Arthur legend. I've heard this bedtime story before.
But it looks very knightly, very kingly. That's pretty cool. Yeah, there's not really much going on at the bottom naturally, and as we did see on the back, not really much going on there at all. Just having this that your figures can stand in front of is just a really wonderful accessory. With each build and artifact accessory that we have received, I really do think Hasbro have really pushed the boat out each time. So it's been really cool to see that and how Hasbro have actually wanted to develop things a little bit. I was really scratching my head just because the Ark of the Covenant is kind of like a given to do as a build and artifact accessory. But then I was like, well, how could they do anything for Temple of Doom? How could they do anything for Last Crusade? Maybe Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, just because you could do the crystal skeleton that you see at the end of the film with the throne. And naturally, because we hadn't seen Dial of Destiny at that point, didn't really know what they could do for that either. But it's really cool to see them do something a little bit out of the box. So I really do have to give Hasbro a lot of credit here. Naturally as well, it does kind of go without saying, you can put the real Grail on there, and any of the other Grails that some of the figures come with. I know Walter Donovan and Elsa Schneider, they come with 2 false Grails, so you could just put them in, just to fill that up a little bit more. And there's nothing to say you can't make any to add to that. So yeah, in my opinion, there's quite a bit of play value in this, and if you are a toy photographer, then you can really go into some great scene creation with this. So that's the Grail table. Let's just get into the closing final thoughts.
That's the cup of a carpenter. There's only one way to find out.
You have chosen wisely.
So that's my overall thoughts of the Indiana Jones Adventure Series Wave 3 assortment of figures. I think it's a really, really strong wave, possibly the strongest wave in the entire line. I really want to recommend this wave. I think most people are going to be drawn to the Last Crusade figures in this assortment, and depending on their mileage, then if they really want to complete that Grail table, they're definitely going to be swayed to get these to try and complete that. I really hope Hasbro continues this line on, but the way things are looking, that doesn't seem to be the case, and it will be something I will be discussing later in a future video. Also giving my full closing thoughts on the line as a whole. Just because there is one more figure that I have yet to review, and it's an exclusive, which I don't quite have in my grasps just yet. But of course that will soon change, hopefully. But let me know what you guys think. Will you be picking these figures up? What have you felt of the line so far? Sound off in the comments down below. And while this is me, Daniel East 1000, sign out, and thank you very much for watching.